Hello, it's me, Brodie McLeod again. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. You know, there's some things in life that we kind of like and some things that we don't like, and I think the same is sort of true for people as well. There's this one dude who works here at the lodge who I just don't gel with, and it's just like really unprofessional and rude and has no accountability. I won't name him because can't name staff details. I wouldn't put staff details on the internet. That would be, a breach of privacy. But yeah, I don't really know where to start. I've just had my dinner. The time is 5:45. There was chicken curry for tea, and I'd ordered a vegetarian curry. So I stood in the queue, waited to be served. As soon as the dude saw me, he just stood on the opposite side of the kitchen with a bowl of curry, just like ignorant as fuck, and just didn't say anything. And I was like, what are you doing, bro? You're gonna like sort out my dinner? Like, he's wearing an apron, and a pair of gloves, and I'm like, yeah, like, are you getting paid a salary, mate? Are you, you gonna serve the food or what? And he just blanked me, just ignored me, and just carried on eating his food. And it was just like, okay, can I please have some dinner? And then he's like, we haven't got you dinner. They haven't sent up the vegetarian one, so I had something else out of the fridge, a jacket potato with tuna, beet with tuna and mayo. Which I was very lucky to have, and I'm very grateful to have, and I'm very grateful to be treated in a hospital like this, and not to be, in a much worse situation than I am, which is already a pretty bad situation. Some people know more about that than others, but that's the way things are. I put in a formal complaint about him the other day. These doors have like security glass. You can see this here. You turn this little thing, and like you can see through it, then you can't see through it, then you can't. And this was probably rooted in my paranoia, but I always, when they come and do the obs at night time, they shine a torch through the window, and I always take my phone away because so many apps have got access to your camera on your phone. I always take my phone away from my face, which is like kind of illogical and paranoid, and maybe arguably why I'm in hospital. And he shone the torch through for like about 30 seconds, and he could see I'd taken my phone, and I'd, rather than scrolling on it like I was, I'd like put it flat on the bed like this, and he sussed it, he clocked it. He was there for ages, like shining the torch through the window, and he clocked that I'd put my phone flat so it couldn't capture any images out of the front-facing selfie camera I'm using at the moment to record this video. And then he kind of went away, and then like 30 seconds later, and then when I picked my phone back up thinking he'd gone, came back again. I've got an email in my email inbox because I made a complaint. I said it was like, why is he doing my obs twice in the space of, like, he's already been shining the torch in my window, intruding me at like gone midnight. And the manager upheld it. He reviewed the CCTV and said, yeah, he did go back a second time, shine a torch through the window. And I thought, there was some sort of malware on my phone or something like that. I've done all the security checks, and I don't really know much about cyber technology, but I should do because I need to, really. I have had a couple of other issues as well. Let's have a look. A few days ago, they did a search in my room, and came this guy, same dude, ignorant curry eating, torch shining, selfie capturing support worker, who has a terrible attitude and no accountability when I do try and raise any issues with him. I think that he's kind of acted improperly. He just is completely dismissive. Anyway, he came and searched my room. He turned up at about 10:30 at night with another member of staff saying, we'd like to conduct a room search, and they didn't make it clear that it was like optional. They kind of said, we're doing a room search, and I agreed to it. I said, yeah, of course you can search my room, mate. I've got no problem with that. I suppose it's a bit late at night. It's a bit invasive. Didn't really like it. I've got a copy of the search form, which is redacted somewhere in my gallery. I'll show you it. Wait there. There's my cheese straws. Chief Constable of Devon and Cornwall Police. Here we go, on the 13th of September. Here's the form. So it says, Cewstat Lodge, room 2, Brodie McLeod, room search. He got the time wrong, 22:26, but first of all he got it wrong, then he corrected it. 13th of September 2025. I've redacted the names. They just scrawled their first names, so they weren't really identifiable, and the handwriting was terrible. That's my kind of signature and me dating it. It said reason for the search was general search, and it said no contraband found. I just thought this was like a little bit of an imposition, didn't really mind until they did it again on the 17th of September. This time they turned up in the morning at 9:41. And it was the same pair of people, this same dude, and they went through my room, and again, reason for search, they just said general search. And you can see they said they found a set of used cups, which they did. There was quite a few coffee mugs in my room at the time, and weirdly, a Superdrug bag. Now, I don't know if this was some sort of, they were going to write down that I had a bag of drugs in my room. I know it sounds a bit ridiculous, but the thing is, here's a picture of it, right? Move the widget out of the way. You can look at the details of this photo, although they're editable, so I guess it doesn't mean anything. But it was at 9:40 a.m. He found this bag in the corner of my room, and from memory, I do shop at Superdrug to get my toiletries. I'm sure I've got some on my bank statement somewhere. You can see the location and stuff, but I didn't know where it had come from. And he seemed to find it pretty quickly over in the corner of my room. It was in the, over here where the box of my TV is, and there's a box of shit and shoe boxes down on the left there that you can see. And then very quickly, where that green and red folder and all behind that box, there was this scrunched up Superdry bag. And they said, "What's this?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I don't really know why there would be a pink bag in my room, like a Superdry bag." And then he said, "Well, I'm going to take it out with me." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because it's contraband." And I said, "No, it's not. It's a fabric bag. You're not allowed plastic bags on this ward, right? And they don't put bin liners in the bins because, they don't have. Obviously, they're deemed to be dangerous and contraband. And there's a list of contraband items. Plastic bags is one of them, but fabric bags, it's not. I've got, you can have a bag that's not made out of plastic in your room, and it's not contraband. Ostensibly, the issue with this one is I don't know where it actually came from. I don't remember at any point. I never get bags for life. Waste my money on them because I never reuse them. I just get normal carriers and bring them back to my room. But they took it anyway, and I wasn't too happy about it, to be fair. I think they're coming to do the obs. I'll just pause it for a second. I don't know, you've got to be careful that you don't capture any of the stuff on these videos. What was I saying? Yeah, I wasn't really too happy about the search. So I checked with Gemini about security checks, because the story I got given, I went down to the main office and I said, "Why have I been searched twice in the space of 5 days? Have you got something that you think I'm hiding, or why have you done this?" And yeah, it was I sort of said, look, if you've got something that you're concerned about, then just, tell me about it. I don't know what you have a problem with. So I asked the internet, I said, and they'd said, basically in a nutshell, kind of not really explaining this very clearly or concisely, but I'm a mental health patient, so that's my prerogative. Yeah, they were like asking me. I went to the office and I said, "What's going on?" to the nurse in charge. She said, "We've been told by management, it's been handed down from senior management, that we have to do room searches every day." And I said, "That can't be right. There's no way you can have to do a room search every day. This isn't Broadmoor. It's a rehab. It's a step down from an acute psychiatric ward. So it's a low secure ward where you're allowed things like deodorant cans and shaving foam cans, and you can shave unsupervised, and you can do things like, you can have bone china mugs. Like I had loads of mugs in my room, as he wrote down when he took the super drug bag, which, if I hadn't taken a photo of it, would have just looked like, written on the form, a drug bag, which, doesn't really fill me with confidence very much, especially as it was a second search without any justification. And then the nurse initially was like, "Yeah," and I said, "That can't be right." She said, "No, it is. That's why they're doing it." And I sort of questioned her and pressured her on it a little bit. I think I came back about 20 minutes later and asked if she still had the pink bag, and she showed me it was in the bin in the office directly below my room 2. And so I sort of said, "Look, this bag isn't contraband. It's fabric. I don't want it because it doesn't. I don't think it belongs to me. But I don't know who put it there, and I don't know why he's taken it away. He's not stupid. I mean, like, it's not contraband. It's not dangerous. It's a fabric canvas bag. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to cause you any harm, I don't think. I suppose it would be pretty unpleasant, having one of those over your head, but I don't think that, I'm not a risk for, that kind of self-harm or iteration or, abusive behaviour, and it's just not something that you should take away from the bedroom, Anyway, she opened a folder and she showed me, it said, "No, security check." Now, security checks is a kind of another topic. So security checks are something that they do in psychiatric wards. I've been in a lot of hospitals, and that involves just coming in and checking like those. So they'll like open and close those windows. They'll check that the curtains are running correctly. They'll go into the bathroom and use the little hands-free. That's a little hands-free kind of tap that's thing there. Make sure that they're working. Flush the toilet. Check the door locking mechanism properly. It takes like 30 seconds, and that's what a security check is. But these weren't security checks, so they sort of tried to package it up as it being a mandatory daily security check. The thing is, I've been in this hospital since July 2024, and not once have anybody knocked on my door and said, "We're doing a security check on your windows and your flush and your sink." And maybe that's why they've started doing it, in their defence, because they don't do security checks very often, but they're not meant to be searches. So they'd been told to start doing security checks, but I'd had 2 searches, one on the 13th and another one on the 17th. On the 17th, there was something there that in my room which I can't explain the source of. Like I said, I do shop at Superdrug sometimes. But yeah, they just took that away. And if I hadn't taken a picture of it, it would have just said like drug bag on my chart, which is like a bit circumspect, I brought it up this morning in the morning meeting. The same chap, the curry eating chap, asked me. I asked him if there was like any other business. There's a meeting at 10 a.m. every morning, a ward morning meeting. So he said, "At the end, any other business?" I said, "Yeah, what's going on with these room searches? Like, am I going to be searched again today or tomorrow or the next day? Like, when are you going to do it the next time?" And he just like completely stumbled and tripped over his narrative. In fairness to him, he doesn't speak like brilliant English. And I think if you've, never obviously always respect somebody that speaks English as a second language, because it means they know 2 languages when I don't. So I'm not going to discriminate against him. But he was just like, I started to read him this paragraph and this information. I'll read it for you for your own sort of benefit. So just to be clear on this issue, can psychiatric hospitals conduct daily security checks of windows, flushes and other features without the consent of a patient on a regular basis in the UK law? So balancing safety versus privacy, daily security checks. Yes, UK hospitals can and often are required to conduct daily security checks of windows, flushes and other features without the explicit daily consent of the patient. This practice is rooted in the hospital's overarching duty of care to ensure the safety of all patients and staff. However, these checks must be conducted in a manner that is proportionate, respectful of the patient's dignity, and based on a thorough risk assessment of the environment. The legal basis and regulatory framework. The legal basis for these checks stems from the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, which places a duty on employers, including hospitals, to ensure health, safety and welfare of their employees, not just those in their employment, such as patients. Furthermore, Care Quality Commission, the independent regulator of health and social care in England, sets out fundamental standards of safety and quality that all registered providers must meet. These standards mandate that the physical environment of a hospital must be safe and well maintained to protect patients from harm. Distinguishing environmental checks from personal searches, it's crucial to differentiate between routine environmental safety checks and personal searches of a patient and their belongings. So environmental safety checks, these are general inspections of the physical fixtures and fittings within a patient's room and communal areas. The primary purpose is to identify and mitigate potential risks such as ligature points, anything that could be used for self-harm, broken items that could be used as weapons, or opportunities for a patient to abscond. These checks are considered a necessary part of maintaining a safe therapeutic environment for everyone on the ward. Personal searches. A search of a patient's person or their private belongings is a much more intrusive measure and is subject to stricter rules. Generally, patient's consent should always be sought before conducting a personal search. A search without consent is only permissible in exceptional circumstances where there's a clear and immediate risk to harm to the patient or others, and it must be legally justified, for example, under the Mental Health Act 1983. Even in such cases, the search must be carried out with the utmost respect. So the role of risk assessment. The frequency and intrusiveness of environmental checks should be determined by a dynamic and individualised risk assessment. This assessment will consider patients' individual risk. This includes their history of self-harm, violence or attempts to abscond, the overall acuity of the ward. A ward with more acutely unwell patients may require more frequent and thorough checks. The physical design of the ward, the layout and features of the ward will influence the nature of the safety checks. Hospitals will have policies and procedures in place that outline how these checks are to be conducted. These policies are regularly reviewed, should be in line with the national guidance of bodies such as the CQC and the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, NICE. Patient communication and privacy. While daily consent for routine environmental checks is not required, good practice dictates that the patient should be informed about these procedures upon admission. This helps to manage expectations and reduce any feelings of intrusion. Staff should also conduct these checks in a sensitive and respectful manner, minimising disruption to the patient as much as possible. In conclusion, while the idea that daily checks may seem intrusive, there are fundamental aspects of ensuring a safe and therapeutic environment within psychiatric hospital. The legal and regulatory framework which in the UK supports these measures as a necessary means of protecting vulnerable individuals, while also emphasising the importance of respecting patient dignity and privacy. Do they have to provide a written account for each check? Yes, a written account of each safety check is required in UK psychiatric hospitals. So psychiatric hospitals in the UK are required to maintain a written account of the daily security checks conducted on features like windows and flushes. This is a fundamental requirement for ensuring patient safety, maintaining a safe environment and demonstrating compliance with legal and regulatory standards. However, this written account is typically not a lengthy narrative for each item, but is meticulously recorded using detailed checklists. How are these checks documented? I mean, it kind of goes on for a while. You know, the taps, the flooring, no trip hazards. They check the furniture, the doors, the windows, etc. It's important that they do this, and there's regulatory oversight from the CQC and other people. I had a different conversation. I'll see if I can find it. So this was the one that I searched on the 17th of September. So when they said about security checks, I checked that, you know, because I didn't know anything about that because they haven't been doing it for the whole time I've been in hospital. This was what I searched. And this kind of shed a little bit more light on the situation. So this was the first thing that I searched on the 17th after the second search in like however many days, I was like a bit unsure and stuff. I said, I'm currently detained under Section 3 of the Mental Health Act at Signet Custod's Lodge Rehabilitation Unit. They've started to do daily room checks where they've said that management have instructed the staff to search, which is what I was told verbally by the RMN, every patient's room every single day. That's what I was told. This kind of feels a bit like harassment. It's very oppressive. Is this legislative or provided for in law, policy guidance, or like rules? And do I have a right to complain about this? It said yes. UK law and guidance generally state that routine or random searches of patients' rooms without consent are not permissible. Searches must be justified by a specific identified risk to safety and must be proportionate to that risk. You have the right to complain about this practice, which I don't know if I'm going to do because it's a bit of a vacuum of accountability, really. But I should do, yeah. I mean, it's just loads of stuff every week. I've just got loads of stuff that I get put into my computer, into my phone, and they says, yeah, you should make a complaint, right to the CQC, right to get the IMHA, right to the PALS team. Yeah, it says you have the right to complain about this practice. You can raise your concerns with PALS team or the IMHA or the Care Quality Commission. I say, can you tell me the citations and sources which justify and exemplify your response? So the Code of Practice statutory guidelines outlines the legal framework for good practice for mental health professionals working under the Mental Health Act. It specifies that searches should be based on an identified need or cause for concern, not as a routine practice. It also emphasises the importance of dignity and privacy. NHS trust policies. Many NHS trusts have their own internal policies on searching patients' rooms, which are guided by the Code of Practice. They often state that searches must be justified by a specific risk and be proportionate to that risk. So they must have had some reason, you know. Routine or random searches are generally not permitted. CQC says that, hospitals need to be safe, effective and well led, and they would view an oppressive daily searching policy, which is not what they're doing. Initially, she told me they were doing daily searches. Then she opened the folder and she said, oh no, it's not a search, it's a security check. What I just read you was security check. This is about room searches. Like, they went through all my shit. They didn't find anything the first time, except, you know, the second time they found this pink bag, you know, and it was just like unexplainable. I don't know where it came from. And then they took it away, which they shouldn't have done because it wasn't contraband. So it was like, it didn't really fill me with confidence. Anyway, CQC, patients' rights and advocacy, you know, the mechanisms like the Patient Advice Liaison Service and the independent, you know, it goes PALS, LMHA, you know, get them to help you out. So the story gets better, even better. So, my day and my night has been constantly disturbed over the last 2 weeks. There's a lad down the corridor. I put a post on Twitter earlier on where I went live, and it's like a combination of the fact they've got the glass in the doors all along the corridor, and they've also got hard floors, but the sound really carries. He's got a beasting stereo. Sometimes he plays wicked tunes that I really like, but there's this one guy who just plays his music too loud all the fucking time. Sometimes at like when I wake up at 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning, which I just do habitually. Today I've been up since 3 a.m. I had a nap between 12 and 1 and had my late lunch. But yeah, I just have to, it's like I have to go and tell the staff, you know, you can stand outside the office directly below this room and you can hear the bass like reverberating through the whole building, and it's like they don't seem to have the kind of like the sort of, you know, patient-centered vernacular in terms of their attitude to care and treatment, who want to go and be like, God, that's really loud and it's 4 a.m. Should we go and tell them to turn it down? It's like I have to go and tell them every time. Today, I've complained about 5 times. I've gone down to the office and I've said, can you please get that dude to turn his music down? Like, I was trying to chill out in my room and he's playing like heavy metal music, like a ridiculous volume, and it's really loud. And he turns it down for a bit and then he just turns it back up again. And then it's like the staff don't go of their own volition. Do you know what I mean? Like they wait for me always for some reason. And this has been the problem for weeks. I mentioned it to the same guy, this chap who did the room searches, and you know, just looked at me like a kind of ignoramus when I tried to, you know, when I got to my place after queuing up for my tea just now. And I was like, can you go and tell that dude's turn his music down? He said, nah, bruv, why don't you wait till tomorrow for the meeting, and then you can bring it up then, and just basically put up with it for the rest of the day. And like, it was like, he just didn't have, I was like, can you just go and tell him to turn it down? Yeah, he just, like, didn't want to get up off his arse. And, yeah, it was really apparent. Just a second, I think someone's at my door. Sorry, nobody was there. Yeah, and it just, like, it's just little things like that, and he's just got a really bad attitude. Like, when I first brought my stuff up here, they put it all into like this big tall cage that you've probably seen outside NHS hospitals. They used to put laundry in, like, they have laundry suppliers that deal with all their sheets and towels and stuff like that. They arrive in a lorry, and they've got these narrow cages with like wheels on the bottom. I had quite a lot of possessions in the main site hospital when I came up here at the beginning of June, and he was going through my stuff with me. And there was a few things, and they brought me up here, and then they spent, like, my stuff didn't arrive for about 5 hours after that. My section papers went missing. So did 2 DVDs, which were to do with a police misconduct investigation from 2019 that people might have seen. You can just see, it's not really a major issue, but if you look at my laptop, you can see the sticker there. It's been peeled off. There was like an Amazon sticker, which meant nothing to me. It was just from something I'd had delivered from Amazon. And I'd stuck it on top of my laptop. And they peeled that off because it, like, I don't know why somebody did that, but they did that. And yeah, my section papers had been provided to me, and they just went missing. Anyway, this video is already 26 minutes long, but there's one other thing that was, like, really dodgy. I've put in complaints about staff using illegible handwriting on their documents and misrepresenting my clothing. Like, they've, like, you know, they kind of really misrepresent it, you know. I've got a jumper, a sweater, you can just see it there. I'll take it out just to illustrate what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so this sweater, I'll put it on, is from Peacocks. It cost me 10 quid. I got it in town the other day. You might have seen it in my other videos if you're unfortunate enough to be the sort of people that watch my Wastecast videos regularly, but this is what it looks like. And a few days before the bit of paper I'm going to show you happened, I had somebody said that this was cream coloured. I don't know if you would say it's cream coloured. If they hadn't done it, like, it's not the first, second, third. It's about, like, without exaggeration, like the 47th time. Like, on the other ward, I was going on leave for like 3 times a day for cigarettes, and I've been here for 52 weeks. And literally every time I go on leave, they'd either misspell my name, only put my first name down. A lot of the time, the people, if I brought them up on it, I said, can I see your ID, so I can make a complaint? And they, like, hide their ID. Really unprofessional, just like a vacuum of accountability. Only a small problem, but if I did go AWOL, you know, or yeah, like I've got a long black coat, a hemp hoodlum jacket. You can see it hanging up there. Google hemp hoodlum long pea coat. That's what that is. I've had it for like about 12 years. It's really durable. They say that thing's brown. Like, it's slightly sun bleached, ever so slightly, but not really. Like, and they used to write down brown coat. The staff bought in Hayward Ward a long black jacket, which was just for anybody to use as like a communal jacket, which would match my description. Like, and that made me really paranoid, probably for no reason at all. But yeah, just made me kind of. Anyway, someone else said that it was green. So a few days before this. Bit I'm about to show you in the corner happened. So first of all, someone said it was cream, and I was just like, what? okay, and just went along with it. I didn't really care. Like, no one's ever really going to look at the leave paperwork. Probably it's just a procedural kind of bit of red tape for going out for a fag, which I don't do anymore. I've just been smoking vapes instead. I haven't bought Backy for like 2 months, but I digress. Yeah, they said it was green and cream, and this guy, the same dude, was filling out my leave form, and he'd already written the correct colour initially. So he put down brown, right? And he said, and he started asking me, you know, in like broken English, what is it? What is it then you're wearing? What is it? And it was like, well, like it might have been the language barrier, and I don't want to for a nanosecond be prejudiced, you know, but he's proficient enough. I think he knows the difference between the descriptive title of a, you know, a sweater or a jumper. You know what I mean? It's like, what I'm wearing at the moment doesn't have, you know, a hood or a zip. It's just like a sweater or a jumper or a jersey. I don't know what other words we can find for it. I don't know. Should we Google it? Let's have a look. You can jersey, jumper, pullover, fleece, sweatshirt, hoodie. It says hoodie is a synonym for sweater, but obviously it would have a hood. And it's like, if it doesn't have a hood, it's not a hoodie. I think he knew what it was, but because he'd written the right colour, and they always misrepresent my details, if you don't believe me, like, check the details, check the CCTV. Like, I'm not being slanderous, libelous or accusatory here. I'm just simply explaining that they frequently seem to make glaring errors. Do you know what I've got? The guy, when I went on a cut, like, yesterday, I made some cheesed straw. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, I went on leave with the occupational therapist. I've got the bit, I like tore this bit of paper up, right? You know, it says I'm going into town. Can you see? You know, it's reversed, isn't it? Anyway, this is from the 18th of the 9th, which I think was yesterday. Escorted leave into town. Let's have a look if I can piece it back together. There you go, you can just see it. I thought it was unacceptable. I was wearing that coat that I was just wearing, these grey jeans, right, and a white pair of trainers. And so he just wrote, as if I was going to a funeral, he just wrote all black. You think you can just make that out? All black and white trainer. And I was like, that's not like, you know, that's not cricket, you know, like I'm not attending, I'm not, you know, going to, you know, a wake, you know, like, and if you put, you know, black jacket and grey trousers, then, you know, if I lose support worker, I'm not going to get into trouble. But I'm going to just tore it up because it's like they've done it so many times, I just got a bit pissed off. And then eventually they put it back together, and they said that my black jacket, this one that I'll put back on, here, after I tore up the leave form because they'd said I was just wearing all black and white trainers, which is just kind of a bit of an abstraction from the truth, they put this down as a hoodie. It's got like zips all over it, do you know what I mean? Like, it's waterproof, and it's got like, it has got a hood, but I don't think the RMN was under the misapprehension that this is a hoodie. I don't think so. It's happened loads of times, and whether it's using my phone to capture me taking selfies, causing me to be paranoid, or kind of generally having a lack of accountability, not wanting to do his job properly, misrepresenting my details, kind of was pretty obstinate when I was doing my property list too, going through like all of my personal belongings. Yeah, just I don't really like him, but I'm not going to level any baseless accusations, and I'm probably not going to make any more complaints. But if you want to check my emails, I've got a complaint from the manager, Josh Tapp, which says that he did shine the torch through my window for 30 seconds, go away, and then come back again, literally like 25 seconds later because he'd sussed that I was holding my phone down flat, and then I would have obviously picked it back up, when he came back for the second innings. I reckon they're trying to make I was paranoid that they were trying to capture images of me to make it look like I'm not in this room and I'm like staying in a tent or something. Like if you get a kind of Blair Witch profile, picture of somebody, that could be used to falsify your location. I don't think anyone's got a motive to do that, but there's loads of other issues I'm going to raise, in which are a bit more serious than this. But yeah, I'll leave you with that kind of narrative of one staff member who I don't think is particularly good. He probably doesn't think I'm a particularly professional or a good person either, and I fucked up really hard. And spoke to a mate of mine, and I spoke to somebody who kind of implied that I was sort of mocking or deriding people, and it might sound like that, but I can assure you that I'm not. If you could read my mind, you would know what was going through my head, but you can't do that, so I have to offer you my assurances that anyone I have alienated or accused, I don't have a kind of a laughter response to other people's trauma or suffering. It makes me feel sad and I don't like it, just for the record. But that's 36 minutes of me moaning just about one guy. There's other staff members too who I've had problems with, but this one in particular is just really obstinate, and I don't know what else can any other business. Yesterday I had a bit of a weird one. It was twice they came and knocked on my door. So someone came and looked through my door, and it was an OT, an occupational therapist. And I was lying in my room on my bed, and I saw him at the privacy glass, saw a head at the privacy glass. I was like, oh right, I kind of half got up, and he disappeared. And so I got off my bed, opened the door, and was like, hey dude, how's it going? And he was like, all right mate, doing an OT session in a bit, relaxation. I was like, okay, why are you looking through my bedroom window? And he's like, well, I just wanted to see where everybody was. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, I just wanted to see where everybody was before I started knocking on doors to round people up. And I was like, that makes zero sense logically or with reason, or, you don't need to kind of work out where every service user is and then go through the process of knocking on the door. It was that aggravated my paranoia, made me worry that somebody had tried to phone the hospital, and then he was coming up to my room saying, yo, the police or journalist solicitor are on the phone, they want to speak to you, are you interested? Oh no, you're not. Okay. And that kind of really bothered me. And then it's the same thing happened, or a different thing happened a little bit later. There's this new member of staff who is lovely. She's quite a dainty little thing, and she's not much younger than me. And I heard her knocking on the door yesterday, knocking on other people's doors, saying, would you like to attend mindfulness activity, which is where they sort of meditate, group meditation, guided meditation. And she definitely knocked on my door, but she must have run away, because I heard the knock at the door, and I don't normally do mindfulness, but I heard a knock at the door, so I got up really quickly, and by the time I opened the door, the corridor was empty. I could just hear somebody going down the stairs, and it was like, she must have moved pretty quick, knocked on my door and then got the fuck out of Dodge as quickly as she could. Which, I got, it takes me, to get from my bed here to the door, it takes me 3 seconds. In the corridor is about, 15 metres long or 12 metres long. There was just nobody there. Anyway, that's the end of my Wastecast for today. That's almost 40 minutes. Please like, comment and subscribe. Get me on at Brody Likes You on Instagram, and maybe don't get 30% off Cool Games to sweeten summer in a notification. Who's it even from? Let's have a look. In-game purchases from the Galaxy store. That's fine, thank you. Yeah. If you want to get hold of me, just ring on the doorbell and or just shout up to the room directly above the office, because that's the room that I'm in. I don't think anybody has been censoring my communications, but it's better to be safe than sorry, because you just never know if somebody does want to reach out and make contact with you for an important reason, if they might not be able to because somebody isn't doing their job properly. And there is definitely staff here who don't do their jobs properly, but they're knocking at my door, so I've got to go.